G'day, John here. Welcome to my shop. Okay, so this video is about a cherry burl that's it's been around in my shop for about 6 months. It's been drying elsewhere for around 18 months. Moisture content's around about the 12-15%. I'm ready to sort of start dealing with this, but it was a real messy job. Hammer and chisel to take off the rough pieces on the outside, and then using the grinder with a form blade. It was then cut into two pieces, so it would fit into the round mould. Both pieces were around about 4 inches in height. Fitted into a 16-inch silicon mould. You've got to take the rough stuff off these things, otherwise the resin that's going to be forming into this won't adhere, and you'll get cracks appearing through the bowl. So it's important. Here's the bowl round formed out of the silicone mould. I did put some mould release agent in, and it came out fairly reasonably well. That plastic bowl was used to initially keep one half of it down. The 2x4 that's on that side was screwed to keep the other half of that cherry burl in place while the resin set. This was deep pour resin, by the way. Took 3 days to set, but it set real hard. It was supposed to look pretty with a pink type accompaniment of the cherry burl, but it came out more apricot than pink, but pretty happy with the colour at the end of the day. Now this is the chuck round, which is going to be glued on the back of this bowl surface, sanded in both places. You just dip that straight into that melted glue in the pan there that's been heated, and stick it on the back of the bowl round, finding its centre with the awl, and I weight it down and leave it overnight. Leave it for at least 24 hours to let this glue really set in hard. I'm amazed, really. I mean, this is a 25-pound piece spinning on the lathe. I mean, sure, it's weighted and balanced when it goes on the lathe, but this piece of wood just held on by glue. I thought it would actually come off, but getting it rounder than and more balanced on the lathe, I use a tailstock right up to the point where it can be spun up around 1000 RPM. It went all the way through, and to remove that piece of wood at the end, I just used a chisel to take it as close as I can to the back of the bowl in the finishing process. You see a bit of a debauchery on that 2x4. The screws obviously broke inside, and it took a while to get them out. Here we go with the actual start of the rounding of the bowl, getting it all balanced. I used the Easy Tools negative rake medium scraper. I find that it gets the epoxy off really well, and there's no catches with these sorts of tools, but using the medium size, it actually burnt that carbide tip and welded it to the end of the tool, so it ruined the tool at the end of the day. I've now got their full-size roughing negative rake scraper, and that works a treat. So just a tip there, get the large size if you're doing the large bowls. This is a 16-inch in diameter bowl. So here it is being rounded off in the rear, getting most of the cherry burl exposed and the epoxy coming out too. The idea here is to make it, I'll give it its shape, and you can see there the chuck holding onto that glued onto the back of the bowl. Tailstock is pressing hard against that, so it's holding it in place. Relatively safe in terms of that moving away from the chuck. There's minimal vibration coming from the balance bowl, so wasn't really worried about it letting go. The tailstock does get removed shortly as I hollow out the centre. It was at that point I thought, keep away from the side of that bowl and while the hollowing is taking place. There's some shots here of the mess that this epoxy makes. It is horrendous stuff to turn. You've got to wear a mask. I keep the vacuum on in my shop to take most of the dust away. This the negative rate scrapers certainly produce a confetti-like substance when it's been peeled off, but the dust that goes along with it is horrendous. It gets everywhere. So it's a real shop clean after a job like this. The bowl hollowed out reasonably well, but I'm still here. As you see, the Easy Tools medium size is around about here. It started to get overheated and welded the bit to the tool itself. Those confetti pieces goes everywhere, cameras, all over your clothes. It's mean stuff, but there's nothing like it at the end of the day. There's no bowls being turned that looks like the stunning effect you can use with the epoxy and wood marriage in some of these bowls. They're just absolutely stunning. If you're going to do some of these bowls, I would recommend that getting a fairly large size pressure pot. If that's the case, these things would need to go into their molds and be pressurized. Get a large one so you can do the small jobs and the big ones. I've had to dice some of my smaller pressure pots and opting for this larger one that I use now. It's an 18-inch in diameter. Sand through to 240 grit, and then I put on some sanding sealer to keep that cherry burl sealed off. Otherwise you'll get bubbles appearing inside the epoxy resin, so it's got to be sealed. Once it's been sand sealed, I give it another sanding with up to 240 grit. I wouldn't go much higher than that because you want the final epoxy tabletop finish to adhere to the surfaces, so you've got to have it with a bit of roughness for the epoxy to take adhesion to. So you'll see in a moment, I mount this bowl on the barbecue rotisserie, which turns the bowl around about 8 RPM, and that's as fast as you want to go as you apply 1 or 2 or even 3 coats of the tabletop resin. First coat will certainly be soaked up by some of that cherry burl, and you may or may not get a few bubbles coming through the epoxy. But just use a small brush and apply it, and be liberal with it, because as the turning bowl, it'll level it out and produce a nice finish. Getting close to now where the end of this video is arriving. I've got some still shots of this bowl. If you guys want to find out any more on how to do all these things, just leave some comments. Welcome your comments in my videos. Obviously subscribe, press that bell as they say, and watch out for my next videos. There's plenty coming up soon. So thanks a lot guys for spending your time here, and cheers.